Okay, before we dive into Wonderbag, what led you into entrepreneurship? And just please tell us a bit about your background too.
So, um, well, I think the thing that has formed me as a person, I believe, is where I was born. And I was born in South Africa during apartheid, and I was born on a farm, Zaliwe Plaza. And so I grew up with a deep curiosity and an anger, a big anger to understand why, growing up in apartheid, I didn't understand why Black people were different to white people. And I didn't understand why men were better than women. And I was born a girl, and I was born a white girl into a family that was an entrepreneurial family, but what I couldn't make sense of was the people that I loved the most and the people that looked after me, protected me, and understood me were Zulu people, and particularly Zulu women. And their kids were my friends, and they understood me. They understood how I thought, and white people didn't understand me because they were all about capitalism and being better than somebody else, while the people that I loved, who were Zulu people, understood about equality, sharing, what was inside, and understood the land. They understood nature. They understood what made me happy, which was the same thing that made them happy. And so I resonated much more with Zulu people than I did with English people. And so it, it, it turned me at a young age into an activist. And so from a very young age, I started to fight against where I was born. And and my biggest problem was that the children that I grew up with went to different schools to us, and they walked a long way without shoes. And we had shoes, uniforms, everything, but we had drivers that took us to school, and the people without shoes had to walk to school. And so I didn't know how to fix that, except I knew that if I sold carrots or vegetables from the vegetable garden, I got money, which I could then give to the kids to buy school shoes. And so I realized that being an entrepreneur could change people's lives. And that was the seeds, I believe, of my entrepreneurial instinct. I also grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My father was an entrepreneur, and he believed that we had to work on the building sites before we went to school. So we would go before school and we would eat our breakfast on a fire and count the mealies and the things on the farm. And so I didn't really know any other way. But what I realized is that the thing that made me happiest was when I was making money to change other people's lives. And that brought me the greatest joy. And I think at that young age of about 8 to 9 years old, that's when my social entrepreneurial journey started.
Thank you for sharing that or channeling us on your journey. You mentioned a great point that I saw that many people are struggling with. You said your father was actually an entrepreneur himself, so you basically had a mentor. Um, there's this quote I was listening to a Peniel's show, Peniel the Black Pen. He once said, when you're, let me recap this quote. He says, oh, when you're lost, he says, what did he say again? He says, I'm still refreshing my memory. Oh, when you are not in the position you want to be currently, that means you're moving in the wrong direction. That means you do not have a compass. Am I right? So I believe mentors are like that drivers so the world is like a globe, am I right? So you have a compass in you. So the mentor is like a compass. So let's say I'm going from the equator towards the north. Sometimes you're going to find yourself going towards the south, but your direction was pointing towards the north. So if you had the mentor, you can actually skip all those processes, all those drifts, all those long mazes or long directions to get to that specific point or pathway that you want or destination that you wanted to be in. So I'm grateful for you to mentioning that point. So another question I might have for you.
No, wait. No. I need to speak about the point you just made. Is that I don't think it is the mentor. The mentor can ask the questions. My father was a mentor in the sense that he always said to us, you never say no, you always say, I'll make a plan. Okay, so he mentored hard work, he mentored getting up early in the morning, he mentored, many things. But what he didn't mentor was the direction of my life. And I believe your mentor, and you particularly right now as we're speaking, we have an internal mentor. And that's the mentor we have to learn to listen to. When we go wrong, it's because we're listening to the rest of the world. If you stick to your curious nature, your gut will always tell you the right thing. But the problem is we can't always listen to our inner voice because we've been told we can't do this because we're a girl. We can't do this because we weren't born a certain way. We can't do this because we don't have an education correctly. We can't do this because we don't have a network. So we then learn to believe that. But if we strip that away and know that the voice inside of us is the right voice, because that's the voice that God gave us, that's the voice of where you're supposed to go to. A mentor can guide you, but a mentor can't tell you where you're going.
You also mentioned a great point because I was hearing a lot of these conversations with one of my, I say seniors or friends, but let me call them friends. How do you zone in with all that noise? Because I mean, you're talking about a spirit, or you're talking about a soul. That's which is guiding you as a guide. Am I right? So with all TikTok, there's a lot of information out there right now. There's a lot of gurus, scientific gurus. There's a lot of money gurus. There's a lot of wisdom gurus out there. So how do you zone in? How do you know that, okay, I'm listening to the right soul. I'm listening to the right God because I might be raised because I've heard that there's actually what you call they call them genetic inheritance, which
Yeah, genetic inheritance. Yeah.
genetic inheritance. That's where that are going to influence you in a bad way. Let's say money decisions. Let's say your father was doing these wrong things, was going to clubs at some point, and now you're inheriting these things. So your gut feeling is telling you, okay, I should go out to a club. So how do I zone in to this specific soul or guidance, should I say?
So I think let's use the example of my father goes to clubs, he drinks too much, he gambles, he does all of those things. So that would influence my life. Those are exterior things that are influencing him. Your genetic makeup is made, and your ancestral makeup is made of good, okay? And your intelligence is an internal intelligence. So it doesn't matter what TikTok's telling you. It doesn't matter what this guru or that guru or whatever is telling you. What is innately correct is what your soul tells you. So you know, and I know, okay, if I make a decision and it doesn't feel right, it's the wrong decision. And I might try and override it. I might try and say, so let me give you an example. I'm hiring somebody, okay? And there's a red flag, there's a something flag, but it's the right person because he went to the right school, got the right grades, studied the right things, speaks the right language, got the degrees, but there's a red flag that somewhere, but because society tells me he's cleverer than me, he's got a better education than me, he's more qualified than me, I must hire him. So I hire him. What happens 6 months down the line? That red flag comes up. And I knew it was there all along, but I chose to override my gut because of society. And you know, and I know, and I can't give you a book to teach you this. I can't tell you to listen to a podcast. I can't tell you to follow an Instagram that tells you right now what we intuitively know.
It's amazing. That's amazing. So let me get into this. What was the aha moment that inspired you to create Wonderbag?
So I was driven by I've been driven my whole life by social justice and equality. And for me, the most incredible people in the world are Zulu women, rural Zulu women who carry the household. They are my role models. They've always been. You know, if they come to meetings, if they're in government, if they are on a stage somewhere, they're not trying to wear a man's suit. They're not trying to be something else. They show up in their bright African clothing and they show up as themselves. And if you sit in a hotla or in anything around a fire and you go to a village and you listen and you kuluma mthetho, the joy of those women and the connectivity and the strength can overpower everything. And so for me, I was always looking for something that was going to change the life of Gogo Dlamini. And Gogo Dlamini is the grandmother who's at home on the farm, who's bringing up her grandchildren, sometimes her children's children or great-grandchildren, and she's also looking after that one's child and that one's child, and she's trying to get them all to school. But the problem is she doesn't have any time. She's also an entrepreneur. Because if I ask you something, who is every person on this African continent who's a woman is an entrepreneur? Is there any Black woman that you know that's not an entrepreneur? She will sell something, whether it's cakes on the side of the road, whether it's mgunyans or whatever it is, women of Africa sell things. They are entrepreneurs. They grow vegetable gardens. They sell their vegetables. So this is the iconic status of the African woman. But the problem is that they are supporting so many people and nobody's supporting them. And I looked for years and years and years to look at how I could support Gogo Dlamini. And I tried everything. I tried earthworm farming. I tried vegetable gardens. I tried many, many, many different entrepreneurial things. And what I knew eventually, after decades of being a social entrepreneur in all different things, I knew that the only way I could change Gogo Dlamini's economic status, because it's about the economic impact in the home, was to look at the fire. Because the fire is the heart of the home. And you can't take away the fire because that's the ancestral stuff. So you need to look at a different way. And I woke up and I was thinking and thinking and thinking. All I could find was examples of MIT University or Amsterdam University or all these universities overseas sending cook stoves to rural Africa to say to people, well, just stop cooking on the fire. And nobody's going to do that. Culturally irrelevant. So I woke up one morning. It was load shedding in 2008. And I was trying to figure out this fire thing. And all the time there was this load shedding and we were going out to restaurants. And I was like, I'm Gogo Dlamini right now. I don't want to go to restaurants. I don't want to cook. I want to cook at home. And so I woke up on the 22nd of April, 2008. And I remembered my Gogo had a box with cushions in it in her kitchen. And I woke up, got out of bed, and I brought a curry to the boil, and I put it on the sofa, and I covered it with cushions, the pot, and in the morning it was cooked. And that was my aha.
Great. That's so special. That's amazing. So because some people have this idea and they will see a gap in the market as you did, and they'll be like, okay, now I'm just taking this entrepreneurial journey, and they don't know the challenges that they might experience there. So if you could just channel us along those stressful moments, those hideous moments that you've experienced in your journey, like in your journey of entrepreneurship in creating the Wonderbag.
It's a tough journey. It's a very, very tough journey. And when you read books about Steve Jobs, you read books about Jeff Bezos, this person, that person, it looks fantastic. It's the hardest, most loneliest journey you will ever take in your life. And would I change it? No. But the thing that happened to me when I had a aha moment, it was more than just an aha moment. I knew I had found, there was a burning fire in me that started that morning. And I knew that this was going to change the way people cooked in the humanitarian world. And I just knew it. I didn't have a business plan that morning. I didn't have any idea of what I was going to do. But I knew that that was the right thing. And my gut and my instinct and my soul came together that morning, and I knew this was my destiny. And it was that burning to equalize the status quo of women and get a Wonderbag to every woman in the world at a price they could afford. And I knew that I could never, ever forsake that. And that is the thing that allowed me to endure the pain of the last 18 years, because it has been absolutely brutally painful. And everybody thinks you're mad, first of all, okay? And they're like, but this is a bag. I mean, nobody's going to believe you can cook in it, first of all. And you're going to change the world? I mean, what are you smoking? You know, like my brother said to me, you know, Sarah, you've been crazy your whole life. Now we can put you into a mental home. He said, because this is the craziest thing I have ever heard of in my life. And I said, okay, watch me. And my life became about this. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had 60,000 Rand, and that was all. And but I knew that I was right. Not because of any degree, not because anybody told me that, because my insides told me that. And I couldn't think about anything else. I could not think about anything else. And, you know, I went to speak at MIT, you know, MIT in Boston. So, you know, MIT. And at MIT, they have this thing called the lab, where they invent things for the developing world. And I was speaking to the PhD students at MIT. And I was looking at all these things that had been invented. And I mean, they were the most incredible inventions I've ever seen in my life. Do you know how many of them went to market?
Please share.
And this place has got more. So MIT has got more brains and more money than God's got sheep. And that's a lot of sheep. And there's me with 60,000 Rand in a bag. So how many of their products went to market? Zero. And do you know what the first question they asked me when I was speaking was, how did you get hold of Unilever? I said, I phoned them. I mean, how else do you get hold of somebody? You know, and the bottom line is that if you are following your authentic path, the path we spoke about earlier, you have to have total trust and faith. Because it is impossible as a human to make things happen. You have to get, there's luck. Do you know about the 10,000 hour rule?
You can share it. You can share it for the audience.
So people talk about the 10,000 hour rule. They say, if you do 10,000 hours at something, you will be good at it. So I've probably done the 100 million hour rule on Wonderbag. So I should be good at it. I believed in what I was doing. And I was determined that it was going to happen. And you know, such an incredible thing about this is that it wasn't easy at all. So when I tried to get money, people laughed at me. They said, this bag, everybody can copy it. And, you know, I wanted to register it for carbon credits. Everybody said, well, what are carbon credits? You mad? I mean, it was all just, it was almost just a complete belief that it was going to work. Anyway, and it did teach me about faith. But, I mean, the challenges are people don't invest in women. So not only are you a female entrepreneur, you've got an old-fashioned ancient bag. It's not a modern, everybody thinks the solutions of Africa or the solutions of the world is high tech, comes out of Silicon Valley. It's got to be plugged in. This is an old-fashioned bag, and so nobody's going to back an old-fashioned bag that you can tunga in the back of the house, you know. And so I had to think creatively, and I had to think of how do I set up a business, okay, that supports Gogo Dlamini. I didn't want to do an NGO because NGOs and people who want to save the world are all patronizing. They think they know about Africa. Africa knows its own stuff. We've got our own solutions here. We should not be looking abroad. So I closed in with all those women of Africa, and they believed in me. And because of that belief, I went to London and I sold this thing to JP Morgan, and they looked at it and they went, wow, this is a carbon credit project. And I said, yes, it is. I didn't even know what carbon credits were. I had no idea. I said, thank you. How much money will you give me? They said, $100,000. I had to leave there. We didn't even have smartphones. And I had to go look up what carbon credits were. I just said yes to everything.
Jeez.
And then I figured, huh?
100,000, jeez, dollars.
And I didn't even know what they were talking about. But I just said yes. And then I went and figured it out afterwards. So I think, you know, there's an old saying, fake it till you make it. And that's what I did. I faked it. I just said, yes, I know how to do this. When Unilever asked me if we could make 100,000 bags, we were making 10 a week. I said, yes, sure. They said, can you deliver in a month? I said, yes, of course. And then my sister said to me, Sarah, you're making 10 a week. You can't deliver 100,000 in a month. I said, yes, we can. And I went and found, and we delivered within a month. So if you believe in magic and the impossible, you can make it work. Did I sleep? No. Did I take huge risks and nearly lose the business? Probably 20,000 times, you know, but I just believed that, yeah, it was just a blind belief, actually. And I think it's that helped me to override the loneliness. And the other thing that was so important for me is to be nimble, to turn on a dial. So if I saw I was to reinvent myself all the time, I mean, I had to go to America and pretend that I wanted to sell Wonderbags in America, even though I didn't. But I knew that's how I could raise money to get the bags back to Africa. So I went and lived in America. I hated it. I was lonely. I was cold. I was far from home. But I did it because I knew you have to do what you've got to do to make it a success. So if you think you are going to start a business and buy a nice car and have a comfortable life and swan around the world and make speeches and be on podcasts, don't even start. Don't even start. You're going to sweat it like you can't believe. And don't think getting an assistant is going to help you book your diary nicely. If there's nothing to book, you don't need an assistant. Do you hear what I'm saying?
I've heard everything. I've heard everything. Thank you so much for just sharing everything. Congratulations on your achievements. I'm just so happy that there's Africans that are just spreading the word out there that the country, the flag is still being raised in a way it is, you know, because of so many noise that is just happening there. It's America, it's this, but at least we still have Sarah Collins in the building today.
You know what? It's not about success. Thank you for saying congratulations, but I don't actually feel that I've achieved anything really. because at the end of the day, it's not a what is success? Do you know what I'm saying? So what do you define success as?
I would say I was reading this book that says 14 Rules of Highly Successful People. It takes us on a journey of the successful journey. It's a journey. Success is not a destination. So it's doing what you love
Yeah.
every day and helping people, making an impact. So for me, I think that's success.
Yeah, it is. And it's you know, I never feel it is a journey. It's 100% a journey. And you know, when you achieve one thing, you go, there's more to do, you know. And I mean, if Steve Jobs was still alive today, he'd still be in the lab looking at innovations, you know. And that's what a true entrepreneur is. A true entrepreneur never sees their own success because they're humble. They actually need to especially a social entrepreneur, there is so much going on all the time, and it's choosing your battles wisely. And the impact is where you feel good about seeing Gogo Dlamini now. Her grandchildren are all at university. You know, she was an entrepreneur. She's taken 3 generations out of poverty. And that's success. No awards or nothing you read on Google is a success. A success is taking people out of poverty intergenerationally. It's about changing people's lives for the better. That's for me. So I never wanted to build a big business,
Sorry.
you know, like in New York.
Sorry, I'm using a basic account on Zoom, so the time we have less than a minute. So I'm gonna close the Zoom and then we're gonna
Okay.
go back again. Did you hear me? Yes, I'm gonna click out and then when you're gonna
join the same Zoom.
Same Zoom, yes, same Zoom, please.
Okay. Now, I never saw a building in New York, like on 42nd Street, saying Wonderbag, like this huge head office. For me, Wonderbag is about creating entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs drive Wonderbag because it's creating entrepreneurs across our entire supply chain. So I don't actually, for me, that's what it's about.
Thank you.
Enabling and giving opportunities to entrepreneurs.
Thank you. On our last run, I have two last questions. I want to ask because now I'm just getting into this drive of asking everyone I'm interviewing that what's one book that have changed their perspective on life and entrepreneurship that have took them onto this pathway because you read a book or you read a podcast, but I just asked, you gotta know you read books for sure. So that's my question now. What's one book that have changed your perspective?
The one book that has kept me going through some of my darkest days is Phil Knight's Nike.
Top Dog.
Just Do It. I think it's called
Top Dog.
Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog. I mean, why am I missing this? Shoe Dog, yes. Oh, you have it. Thank you.
Yeah. So Shoe Dog is the book that I turn to often. And if my team are struggling, I give them Shoe Dog. Everybody gets Shoe Dog.
Okay, one last question. What's next? What are the next projects for Wonderbag? What's the future? What are you looking for? And yeah, just please share.
So what's next? There's some really exciting developments at Wonderbag. I, by the way, work with lots of geologists, and what's next for Wonderbag? Wonderbag's Well, it's one of the largest scalable carbon credit projects in the world. And we are scaling the business through carbon, through the democratization of carbon, which is something that I'm extremely excited about. I think that what we have seen in the world order right now, where there's no moral fiber, there's no moral compass, we're living in a world of great uncertainty. So what I believe is the future is putting people's certainty into their own hands. And the way we can do that is by empowering women, empowering them to protect their own environments, create local economies at source, inspire rural communities through economic growth through entrepreneurs, not taught to them, but innately brought to them through themselves. And that's my goal.